Welcome to Saturday Night Cenobites. My name is Srethne, and I am the host. And this is the season finale of the episode. And I'm pretty excited to have my guest tonight. His name's Jeff Wells, and I met him in Jacksonville at a bar at a Jackson Film Bar meeting. Um, Talking about his career in film and his acting and all that good stuff, and talk about his singing career too. So I learned that about him on his LinkedIn profile, and also be raising funds for the Corazon Cinema and Cafe in St. Augustine, as well as the Sunray Cinema in Jacksonville, because those are our favorite theaters. And we thought, well, that's a great way to raise funds during quarantine, since we can't go and watch movies. But I have the links below, and so you can buy tickets and watch virtual screenings. And their website, Sunray's website, also has the drive-in theaters, and you can buy the drive-in pop-up drive-in theaters screenings that they're having at the moment too. So go out there and support them while they're out there having safe distancing, social distancing movie experience. The way that I guess this is the way it is now for the time being. But definitely go support Corazon and and uh, and the Sunray Cinema. With that said, I'm bringing into the fold my pal Jeff Wells. Hey Jeff, how are you?
Hello. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the show this evening.
Happy to be here. Yeah.
Sweet. So, Jeff, talk about your upbringing. You grew up in Jacksonville, born and raised. What was that like?
It, it's one I've discovered it's kind of a rare thing. Not a lot of natives here and there. Um, Jacksonville's changed a lot. I mean, it's always been massive. But we've always been a big small town. It was more small town, when I was a kid. There is definitely a lot more. It sounds silly, but you look at the grocery stores, you look at little things like if I was a kid, say when I was 8 years old, the idea of having something like a rambutan, a big furry fruit, I would have been over the moon amazed. Because I mean, we were small towns, so it was meat and potatoes, and that whole mentality was Jacksonville. And I mean, there were some more artistic or progressive ideas, but they're few and far between. So there's been a big transformation and definitely a population boom, in the past 10, even 20 years. So big change. But I mean, it's been enjoyable. I went to Douglas Anderson School of the Arts. I actually didn't finish though. I left my senior year, things and stuffs. Worked. I always had kind of a proximity to film or to theater, so I ended up working at Blockbuster. Eventually, there was America Online, and then this and this and this and this. But Blockbuster is kind of the one where it was my dream job, sort of. And then I went and decided to try for this thing called a talent scholarship at what was at the time called FCCJ, Florida Community College, but now it's FSCJ because there's a state in there somehow. I guess they have a bachelor's program tied in. Cool, boring info to know. Woohoo! But I got the talent scholarship full time. And so I still went ahead and went and got a student loan because I'm like, I need to pay for things. And I need to eventually owe them back, which I still am. I went straight through there because luckily enough, even though I left my senior year of Douglas Anderson, I still had gotten some credit through dual enrollment and things because the classes that they offered were upper level, taught by masters and taught by doctors. So it's like, that's pretty cool. So I was able to get through FCCJ in 2 years. And then I went to JU, did that in 2 years. Sadly, when I was there, they didn't actually they had a physical theater, but it didn't have seats. It probably didn't have a safe environment. It probably had asbestos and other fun things. But they've since opened the theater and actually have a film program. Same thing with Douglas Anderson. They also have a film program, and I probably would have gone towards that back in the day. But I mean, like I think it was fifth or sixth grade, I started writing. I was that weird kid who, hey, let's go do something. I'd be like, gross, and just start writing stuff down, and just random characters, fantasy, this and that. And the thing that put me in that direction was to I wanted to get more drama into my stories. So I figured, hey, I'll try theater since that's a thing. And I don't like the people who are in my area. They're all mean to me. So maybe some weirdo artsy people will be cool. And they were. So it was definitely the right choice.
Indeed, and after FSCJ back in the day, you went to Jacksonville University and you majored in theater and performance. What were those times like?
That was really, it was nice. One, because even though I wasn't at FCCJ, we had kind of a cross worked where JU and FCCJ worked together. Deborah Jordan, who was at JU, and Ken McCullough, who was at FCCJ, they had a co-production because we didn't have the theater. So they kind of made that negotiation. We did Winter's Tale, which is not a well-known Shakespeare, but it does have one of the most well-known deaths of a character because it's so preposterous, and I got to have that death. It says the character of Antigonus says his speech, his whole thing. He's like, "Oh, baby, sad," because I'm basically taking a package with a baby in it and setting it down, and oh, hopefully you'll have a good life. I'm sorry your dad's insane. Um, Go have a happy life. Oh God, oh God, and then a bear comes and eats him. Yeah, the script actually says Antigonus goes off stage pursued by bear. We did not have a physical bear show up. It would have been too comedic. They just ended up doing it as like I think it was a lighting gobo thing that just kind of like had slashes across my face, and it's like the light, and then so I get to say, I got to play that guy because not many people do, because very few people do that show for a reason. But then we also did Little Shop of Horrors, which everyone loves Little Shop. It's just fun. I got to play Mr. Mushnik. This was when I sort of had hair, not really. This was almost like this. There were little sprigs of sadness, and my hair was down to about here. So what I would do is flip it on this side, spray it, flip it around, spray it again, and flip it over one more time. So it was this nightmare toupee looking thing, perfect for the character of Mushnik, because he wasn't as nice. Like, he was pretty mean in the movie, but he was pretty bad. And I had fun with him, so that was the other thing. And then because I had so many credits through FCCJ and through Douglas Anderson, I wanted a few more in theater, but I'd kind of topped out. So they allowed me to do, me and one other student who kind of had the same thing, just because she was an academic genius. She just did 1,000,001 things. They let me do a director study. And so I actually directed that other person's play. And she directed me and two other actors in the complete works of William Shakespeare, abridged. That's how it's written. It's like complete works of William Shakespeare abridged, though. Hilarious, fun script. Yeah, so I mean, college was a great time. I actually did it in just the 4 years. It's a lot of people have the experience to where it kind of goes 5, 6-ish, 7. So I was lucky to kind of get it done, because I'm like, I can't afford this many bills, because JU is a private college, so it runs a little bit more expensive. I tried for a few other states. They didn't offer anywhere near as much in scholarship, and that insecurity. I was just like, I want to leave the nest, but at the same time, there were roots here. I thought about doing the New York thing. I thought about doing the LA thing, but my thought was, if I can't even get a job locally in film, which I've done community theater, but like the Alhambra is pretty much the only paying one here. There are a few others now, but at the time, like I didn't have the confidence to get the job, so it was probably better that I did stick around. But I always wonder, we always do, what would have happened if I had gone to New York or gone to LA or Chicago? Who knows?
Indeed, most definitely. And you're a freelance director, actor, and singer.
Mhm.
What got you into directing, acting, and singing?
Um, I mean, with I think they all kind of happened piecemeal through weird things. The and there's kind of four, because I think you're seeing signing as singing, although I am a singer, so that still works. Um, yeah, I mean, I got into theater acting because of my writing. I was a weird kid who wrote, so I did that. Wanted the drama. Then I discovered, all right, there's this thing called directing that's kind of like that weird stepchild of acting and writing, because you still are telling the story in a more behind the way, to where you can take a script and just do something completely different and still have the text stay the same, but the meaning shifts entirely. So the director is just as much the writer as the writer is. Unless you're dealing with a script that's like, no, it has to be done exactly this way. I wrote it out, and, I'll sue you, like Beckett does, from my understanding, his estate. And then singing, which I actually did get into, was because a violin class ended up getting misscheduled when I was in 8th grade. As bizarre as that is, I was supposed to, like, I had originally signed up for violin. I always tinkered with the idea of singing, but I wasn't, when I went to, it was kind of like the feeder to go into Douglas Anderson. So it was a middle school called Landon. I think it's still open, but it's not the School of the Arts anymore. La Villa is now. But they had a schedule, and I was in 8th grade. I looked around. I'm like, well, one, we're in kind of like this old wood shop. I'm like, this is a violin space. That seems a little weird. And there were all these desks and people just sitting down. And a guy who I knew as a substitute teacher from years previous was just kind of hanging out. I'm like, I didn't think he was a violin guy, but okay, I'm waiting. And, I noticed everyone was a little bit younger than me, like, 6th, 7th grade. And, I kind of ask around. I'm like, so I go to the teacher. I'm like, here's my schedule. What's going on? He's like, oh, yeah, you're in the right place, but violin? Yeah, let's send you up to guidance. So they went and they're like, oh, yeah, that class got shifted to this other time. I'm like, not for me. She's like, well, the only class going on right now is advanced chorus. And I'm like, all right. She's like, yeah, but you have to audition. You have to be good enough to get in. I'm like, all right. So I went, I did it. They gave me the little, can you match pitch? Because this is really what I remember it boiling down to. And then after that, he was like, you know what? Come back on Thursday or sometime later that week after school. We'll have buses and everything for an activity. And I actually ended up joining kind of a more kind of like a traveling group, the ensemble. It was 16 people, and I ended up getting into that as one of the support tenors. So I was like, all right, I'm pretty good at this singing thing, I guess. And fast forward to way later, where we go from singing to signing. That just came from me I met a friend who was deaf, just kind of met out and about. And he was a partier. So I started learning sign language on my lunch break to communicate with him. And the partier part's important because he would bring me to deaf parties. And so I'd be listening to them, trying, because some are vocal. So I'm trying to hear what's kind of being voiced at the same time the signing is happening, to go, all right, I don't know what the signs are, but I'm okay. And then if I see repetition, all right, I get it, and I always made sure, like, I hope I'm not annoying you or being eavesdroppy or whatever. No, you're fine. after a few months, I started noticing, oh, I know that word. I know that word. I know that word. Oh, cool, cool. Okay. And then, after a few months after that, I'm like, all right, I'm eavesdropping now. I really know what's being said. And okay, now I'm part of the communication, like I'm part of the community. People kind of were like, oh yeah, we know you. You're Benzo's friend, da da da. And a few years later, I had several roommates who were deaf, and had an interpreter who was well respected in the community come up to me at one point and say, "You're an interpreter." I'm like, "No, no, I'm not certified." She's like, "Yeah, that's cool. I've known certified interpreters who are awful. You are not. You are an interpreter. So that means you're qualified in the state of Florida." She's like, "I'm a certified interpreter. I'm vouching for you. I'm saying you are." Okay. So at that point, I was like, I gained a bit more confidence and, really started putting my brain into that place where, like, instead of just talking for myself, I was trying to see, how to interpret through. And it became very, very natural. Took some tests to get certified and things like that. But yeah, so that's kind of my day job now as sign language interpreter. And it's opened up a lot of other possibilities mentally for me, but also just visibility of knowing, the disabled community, and specifically the deaf community, deaf and hard of hearing community. They're very important to me.
Most definitely, indeed. And I'm glad you it all went from like directing, acting, and singing, and now signing. It's pretty neat how it all worked out.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And then, so you mentioned that you plan on staying in Jacksonville and no intentions of going to LA, New York, and Chicago. But if some twist of fate happens with getting a script approved, or or getting like landing an audition somewhere, will it help make you move?
Yeah, I love Jacksonville, and I would love the best thing I could do, which everyone says they're going to do this, is go to one of the big markets, become successful enough, and then say, hey, rich investors and people here and everything, come back to Jacksonville, and then I could do the whole shtick of, hey, it used to be the old Hollywood, until things went crazy. But, and is a great studio here, Norman Studios, that is a great piece of history that needs to be shown more, and there are great locations, and just kind of push that. But yeah, I mean, if the right role or the right, to where meetings left and right were going to be happening in Atlanta, in New York, and any of those big cities, yeah, obviously I wouldn't have a choice. Like, I'm not going to allow my urge for familiar comfort to override the potential for greater comfort in the luxury of doing my art and feeling good about it, and really getting it out there. Because I mean, fame, yeah, fortune, blah blah blah. I just like the idea of being able to get my art out to as many people as possible, and see how it affects them, and that's where the idea of becoming famous means some people view it as a really bad thing. On some, I go, well, there's some good in it, in that you get instant feedback. But of course, that's the bad, is that you get instant feedback. If people don't like, your story, you're this, you're that, and that's I hope I have a thick enough skin now that I've, reached we'll say older than 30.
Indeed, that instant feedback happens in stand-up comedy, and so I recommend people trying that first and see how they like it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I wrote like 2 or 3 pages of probably horrifically bad stand-up. I buried it somewhere, and of course, mine was going to devolve into musical at some point. Now, even though I don't write music, I would have to co-write with someone who does. And like, I remembered thinking about it when I was in a movie theater, and as a big guy, if you have to go a little more than just the standing option, you have to use the handicap stall, because otherwise you literally are sitting on it like this, and it's just not a flattering thing. So I had the idea of like a song called "God Bless the Handicapped Stalls" and handicapped stalls, and having it as like a big gospel number. Like, yeah,
With the church
I
choir,
hmm?
with the church choir and the handicap stall with you and everything.
100%. Yeah. I think I might still like, if I go find the paperwork, sell that idea to someone who would be more appropriate to do it anyways. But I just want the humor to be out there, because it's a funny, and what's funny is I started thinking about that while I was in the theater, and my leg was on the door and I started laughing and the walls literally started shaking. Again, big guy, measly crappy walls, so like, but not like literally crappy, but like just not high quality. So yeah, they're just, it was, and I couldn't stop laughing because I was observing the ridiculousness of what was happening. And oh my gosh, my dog just like glomped down. She's being so dramatic. She's like, why are you not playing with me? Yeah, we just recently got Rhea. She's a beautiful, beautiful German Shepherd. We get so many compliments about her. Of course, the first week we got her, she decided to eat something, and we had to bring her to the emergency room, but she's better now. Our accounts are not better, of course, so maybe that idea of taking some of the money for myself would be good, but no. Sunray is great, and Corazon, I haven't actually got to go there yet, but I'm working on something, helping alongside with something. So, and I have seen the pictures on their website. It looks awesome, and honestly, everyone out there in the internet world, support local theaters. AMC's cool, I guess, and Regal's neat, and Cinemark, yeah, they're okay, but like, go to the places that at least in your mind have the sticky floors, like go to those places that really bring you back, because they're struggling hard right now. A lot of them, which I mean, not in Florida anymore, since today or yesterday some regulations did some things and some stuff and whatever, but some of the theaters are still going to be pretty conservative on having people in, but yeah, go support them, go buy gift certificates and stuff. That might be the way to go.
Most definitely. The thing that I love about the Corazon and like independent theaters that they have like performance art there, and I got to host my storytelling event at the Corazon for like 2 years straight before COVID happened.
Right.
And so with the storytelling ability in the theater, like you originally got into theater to improve your overall storytelling ability, and so that was pretty neat to learn about you in your bio, because you said that your characters weren't dramatic enough. So explain in detail some more about what you meant by that.
Well, I think a lot of it just came from me being kind of, I don't want to say simple, but like a simple sixth grader who was just like, all right, I'm writing my stories. I read it in front of the class, probably with crap quality, blah, 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 blah. And I think the idea of performing it made more sense to me, because I think my goal was always for film, but I wrote in novel format, the traditional kind of essay or whatever, but not an essay, oh my god, but I would write in the traditional novella, a short story thing, but I understood that scripts would get it done faster, so I think really that was the thing that pushed me towards drama. And also I remember, I think it was in 7th grade, I hated the school I was at. It just was not a healthy situation. It wasn't good. And I remember Douglas Anderson, yet again coming up, they had a touring thing where they were kind of going, hey, here's what we do, blah. If you want to come here, we're part of the magnet school program. You can actually come here, get on a bus and do stuff. I wasn't eligible because I wasn't old enough. But the next year, um, I was able to go to that feeder school. But I remember a guy performing. I forget the name. It's a play that basically is Charlie Brown, not the one written by the guy from Jacksonville who wrote Easy A, but the actual Charlie Brown musical. And it was just really cool. Like I got it, because of course I knew the characters of Charlie Brown and the Peanuts gang and all that. Um, and this guy wasn't doing an imitation of the Charlie. He just was doing it full on, and I was like, but I can still see it, and I thought that was just one of the coolest things, because I had it in a full point of reference of like, this is an actor, this is what they do, here's the breakdown. I don't know that I had analyzed it that way before. Like, in fifth grade, we did a awful, or no, might have even been fourth grade, a really awful, yay America thing. Like it was, George Washington was there and Lincoln and this, and it was, I couldn't tell you anything of the plot. The only thing I remember is that I wore my dad's military uniform. I think that's technically not legal, but whatever. They put me in that, and I was a big kid. My dad's a small man, so it kind of worked out, although it was still, down to here. And I was a guard, and I think I had one line, and I guess that trauma kind of came back, was like, well, maybe I need to be better at that. And I also figured in public speaking would be a part of it. I don't know that I was thinking that at like sixth and seventh grade. I think really I was just thinking I want to get away from this school. I just didn't like it. And the one that I went to, it was much improved. The teachers were more supportive, I think, because they had a smaller student body. The school I was at it was overcrowded, so it wasn't a good situation.
Most definitely, indeed. And so, you're one of the hosts of Jacksonville Film Bar Mondays, and that's where we got to we met at the bar downtown. I can't remember which bar it was.
That one was the Bay Street Bar and Grill. I'm almost forgetting where it was.
We both love that group. That group is amazing because I got to meet you and Franklin and Tim and everyone. Is just fantastic, and such a great supportive group. And the way that you all make films is just absolutely amazing. It's like totally Hollywood quality. Like I go to some festivals and you can tell it's like too produced, And then like when I saw the videos, like the one shot films at the Sunray, it was just like, wow, this is like really good quality. Like it's not overproduced. It's just amazing. And it's just awesome to see like you all gather like that. So how did you get involved with Jackson Film Bar Mondays?
I'm trying to remember how I initially did. I think it might have been something where Laura Blair, who was kind of the leader of it in Jacksonville. She travels everywhere. She kind of goes here, there, and everything, doing production work of any kind, location management, etc. And she had a post out there, Jacksonville Film Bar, and then it mentioned this is a thing that started in Atlanta, and that other cities have decided they'll do kind of the same thing. So she's like, all right, and she knows the person, I think it's Charles Judson, who did it in Atlanta originally, and I don't know if they still are, but I think they are. And in Atlanta, it's a different creature. I imagine it's a bit of networking, although it says don't be that guy who's like, hi, I'm here to network, can I be in your movie? It's like, it's not that. It's just come chill, be cool. If it happens organically, great. If it doesn't, cool. At least someone who's in the industry. You can talk about the industry. And again, I think in Atlanta, a lot of it also boils down to like, oh my gosh, this person and that person. There's a little bit of just venting. Whereas here we don't have that, because we don't have the day-to-day, everyday. We're working on film all the time. We're not working on Walking Dead, every single day. There might be a few people locally who get to do extra work and stuff like that, and a few who've even been in some of the main cast, but it's few and far between. I ended up going I don't even remember what my first one was, but I ended up going to one of them, and I was like, "This is pretty cool." People just talking about film. I think after about 2 or 3 months, we had kind of the random idea of like, "All right, why don't we screen the thing we're most embarrassed that we were in, or our most embarrassing film?" And everyone kind of showed their stuff, and I showed one of mine that, it was embarrassing, and it's not on the resume; it will not be there. It was embarrassing, not necessarily because it was bad, but because it wasn't my best work, and I was like, ugh. And the situation around it. It was one of those Murphy's Law things to where it was supposed to be an actress and me, and then there was supposed to be a director, and then a makeup person, and this, and a lighting person, and it ended up that like it was, I think, 4 people out of the 10 showed up, and we only had the space for a limited amount of time. So it was like, we got to do it. And of course, the space, I don't think, had the AC working. So it was something. But we got it done, and it was that. But, I showed that. And from there on, we kind of had an idea, of doing some other stuff. I remember the film bar challenges came out of a little bit of an argument, not really argument, but a conversation, we'll say, between me and Basil, who's one of the other hosts. He was saying, I can't do anything with a crap script. Like as a director, I still need a good script to go off of. Like a film can't be good if the script is bad. And I'm like, I kind of disagree with you. I think a really good director could take a less than stellar script, we'll say, and do something with it that's interesting and might make it an overall good movie. And I used as my example what we call an A-B scene. It was something that I took in directing class at FCCJ, to where it's nonsense words. It's like, hello, well, happiest day ever. Like they have no connection, and then it's up to the director to figure out what's the story. And that was our first official film bar challenge, was the AB scenes. And I think we did 2 more that year, and then the next year we did 4. And I think I can't remember if we're in the 3rd year or 4th year now of doing the film bar challenges. But I mean, they've been so great in showing us different perspectives, different ways of filming, different allowing for different teams to work together, and that's kind of been the hope for the film bar challenges, is for it to really bring the community together in a creative fashion. The most ambitious of those, which potentially hurt some feelings because and I'll explain it. It was the 3-part challenge. Basically, step number 1: writer writes a thing. Blah. It had certain parameters. I think it had to be under like 10 pages, and only have like a max of 5 characters, something like that. And also only 1 or 2 locations, because then for the next step, they handed off to, at the time it was Tim Driscoll, and he took it and then shuffled the cards and then handed it to director 1, director 2, director 3, director 4. No one knew who had what at that point. And then that director had to just take the work and do what was written, hopefully. And from there, if they didn't have the budget or whether it be the skill set or the editing, like if it required special effects or whatever, or if it required a drone shot and you didn't have a drone, well, sorry, there's going to be some liberties taken in order to do that. It's just not in the budget. Or if just someone goes, this just does not mesh with me. I'm a comedy guy. You gave me a really thick drama. I don't know how to do this, so I'm going to parody it, and hopefully not hurt your feelings. And then from there it goes to an editor. Again, the director doesn't talk to the editor, and then I think that's and then it goes and is there, and we saw it, and I was happy with mine. I was really lucky. I think in the people who got the cards dealt to them, they really got it the way I intended. Um, I don't think I directed from the page. That's something they tell writers, don't direct from the page unless you're just going to be the one directing it. Um, but it definitely looked very like when I saw it, I was like, this, they didn't change a thing, and it felt right. And that's the script called UCI. Right now, the only way it's available is on Facebook. Um, we've kind of gone back and forth on the possibility of getting it into festivals, since that was kind of like a preview version. It's not a final cut, because there may be a few additional adjustments which might not exclude it from being able to be put into festivals. But yeah, I mean, it's been great to be involved. You know, I've acted in a few of Friends and helped this one and that one. This one's helped me, and that's kind of the nature of it. That's the beauty of the Film Bar challenges, is that one, it's competitive, but is it? Because we don't really have a prize. We don't have anything that's like number one. This is the best one. No, we're all practicing. We're all working together. We're all making art, and we're all playing as well, because it doesn't have that, oh my God, I'm going to be the best. I mean, some of us definitely have a perfection streak and have an urge just to be better, 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 better. And that's great. But I think sometimes doing something like this and viewing it as just practice is beautiful. I mean, another thing that's kind of similar but unrelated is the 48-hour film festival, and even the LOL Jax Film Festival by Adam and Monique. And that one, those are other great ones that don't. They do have the competitive aspect. The 48 definitely does, but it also really is in the root of fun. And the great thing with the Film Bar challenges that we have is that we kind of take the stress of making a short film and then go, all right, we're going to cut away some things to make it easier, but also more challenging. So like cutting away the dialogue. Now you don't have to worry about a script, but you kind of do. You got to make one, this way. And the poetry challenge was, just that. It was a very open-ended, take a poem and give it life how you see it, whatever way. Yeah. So I'm very proud to be part of the Film Bar. It's really helped a lot of people make not only short films, but even some features have been made. And of course they're independent. They're not high budget or anything, but that doesn't make them insignificant. That I mean, it's still a feature no matter what.
Most definitely. And now that you've gone virtual because of the whole pandemic and everything, how
Yeah.
does that? What are some pros and cons of going virtual with the meetings?
A lot of us are huggers, and we can't. That's one thing. Another, I would say it's there is something to be said for the face-to-face meeting. I mean, 100%. Sharing conversations over libations is the best thing to do. It's just fun. We are still doing it. It's just our libations are in our own homes, and the conversations are virtual. So I mean, we still end up having, I'd say, 10 to 15 people show up pretty consistently. But I know for a lot of people, this might be their job, being on Zoom meetings day in and day out, or maybe they're, doing telework. So they're basically on their computers. They don't want to be in front of a screen for leisure time as well. So I can understand why they wouldn't want to engage that way. I think for a lot of people, and they've said that the Film Bar was an escape for them. It was their social time. They may work a job that is in no way creatively inclined. They might be an accountant. They might be, someone who works in retail. Someone who works at a car wash. Like there's a lot of jobs that just do not say, hey, talk about film, it'll be great, you'll have a good time. So that was their outlet. Now they still have it virtually, but I mean, it is different. It definitely is. And the fact that we can't safely really yet plan what the next project is. I think that's the biggest frustration that a lot of people are having, is that they want to. And, people are still doing stuff, doing some pre-production for projects. But I mean, it's very, we're doing the pre-production. We don't really know when it's pre-till, but we're doing it. Yeah, so I guess that would be my answer to the difference between the in-person and virtual. And also, the positive of the virtual is that you don't spend money out at the bar, and that's great. But the downside is, you're having to cook for yourself and like make your own drinks. Like, ugh. I can't be served unless you have a roommate or someone in a relationship who's willing to make that. And no, everybody here in my house has a job, so they're like, no, serve yourself. So yeah.
Indeed. And for this segment, we're going to break down your film career that I saw on IMDb, and which is scrolling on the bottom there. So, and in the description box below. So, in 2017, you worked on The Strange Case of M. Valdemar. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yes.
What are some stories on that one?
Yes, Monsieur Valdemar. So that one I got. I think I think it was a friend who works at Full Sail. She was like, "Hey, we have a student who did a pretty awesome. Like, I've seen the pictures, and I know you said you have a ability to do some voice stuff. Like, do you want to try?" And I was like, "All right." So I tried. Yeah, I went ahead and just went out and found, because it's a Edgar Allan Poe story. Not terribly well known, but pretty interesting. So this student at Full Sail, I believe he's an engineer in his past life. He decided he was going to do a full short, but still, I think it ended up being 6 or 7 minutes, full stop motion. Like, clay, he built the whole rigging and everything. Like, it's incredibly impressive. So it was already basically done, or was completely done. They just needed voices, and I auditioned for that, and so I played the character title name, Valdemar. The gist, I mean, I'm not exactly giving anything away, since it's from Edgar Allan Poe, and he's been dead for a while, so his stories are pretty public. But basically, it boils down to a police officer is following up because a doctor might have done malpractice. When he asks the doctor, he's like, "Oh, no, this isn't malpractice." So me and this guy Valdemar, we agreed that, okay, we knew he was dying, probably from consumption, tuberculosis. And okay, so we made a deal that when he's on the brink of death, I'm gonna hypnotize him and see what happens. And so, he says, "All right, I did." And he hypnotizes the guy, and the guy basically stays in this suspended animation where he's not dead, he's not alive, he's just kind of in between. And then I think it's like 3 or 4 months later, the guy's still like, he's like, "Are you dead?" "No." "Are you alive?" "No." He's like, "Let me wake up or let me sleep. I don't care. Just let me go." So he's like, "All right, fine." Does the thing, and the guy literally just melts, like just falls into a green goop and just bleh. And I mean, that's the story from Edgar Allan Poe. Yeah, so they did that with stop motion, and it was really awesome. I'm trying to think if they have it available anywhere, because they did do a few festivals. I know they had, I think it was one that was really pretty nice. I want to, like, Sundance or whatever, to where it was like, they're like, "You're close." They actually were willing to send him a letter and say, "You did really well. You were nearly up there." I think it was like, it just didn't quite match with the items that they were looking at. But I know it got into a few others, and fun stuff. It was really great. It was one day of work, very quick. I was gargling a lot of water and trying to talk through that, because the guy's, his poor lungs are just, well, it was bad. But it was really fun doing that, just having fun with making it just sound so gruesome and so,
Most definitely. In 2018, you were involved in three projects. Good for you. I'm going to kill someone this Friday in Octagon. What are some stories behind all those ones?
So Good for You was actually a film from a student at my alma mater for high school, Douglas Anderson. She, I guess it's not my alma mater. I don't know, whatever. But the place that I used to go to high school, she actually got into the film program because they have it. But it was, I'm trying to remember if it was something that was actually posted through Film Bar or something like that, where they were just going, "Hey, a couple of students in Douglas Anderson need actors who are adult, rather than using student actors." And it's a very charming story, basically about a woman who is single. I'm trying to remember if she was divorced or widowed. Um, but her two kids are basically noticing that she's sad. And their aunt mentions, "Oh, well, you know, she was so picky about her guys, she practically auditioned them," and they took it literally. And so they start auditioning gentlemen for to date their mother. And I ended up playing the one who kind of won in their opinion. Um, and it was really an adorable story. And that one I think is out there on her website, um, or at least her maybe YouTube channel. And then Friday, yes, I'm gonna kill someone this Friday. Was directed by Durden Godfrey. That was a feature. I that whole project is so ambitious. One, doing a feature is always ambitious. Doing a feature here with basically no budget, insane. But I mean, the locations that they got, the professionalism that they had it was through the roof. It was a really great experience. And honestly, I want to say that was one of my first filming experiences, even though I think no, it was my second, because Octagon was my first. Uh, Other than that atrocity that I made that I talked about with the people who weren't there. Yeah. But it was it was great because originally when they gave us when they mentioned the script and they kind of talked through it, they said, "Well, we didn't have a role for you, so we wrote one." I'm like, "Well, that's flattering, awesome, all right, cool." And so I kind of ended up as the comic relief, which I'm perfectly fine with. um, that kind of has become my thing, which will lead to the first role of the two things that I almost always get is the comic relief, and then we'll move on to Octagon, where I play just the creepy, maybe just very sick human beings. Octagon is by a director, Christopher Wiggins, and he this was not his first, but it was my first time working with him and his team. Um, Basically, it's a kind of like an anthology story with a through line of a character trying to get through his dreams and his nightmares, and then we kind of see them. And one of the nightmares is, and it's more of him observing them rather than being involved in them. But one of them is basically about a guy who murders his father with a baseball bat. Um, and then we find out why, because his father was abusing him in every fashion, nightmarish, and bad things happen. And that's yes, that was 2018. So those were that also was a feature. That one is still was with a distributor for a while, and they were having a difficulty with figuring out the genre. I guess because it wasn't very cut and dry. Like, this is a slasher horror. This is that type of horror. It was a bit more. Because it was an anthology, you'd figure they'd be like, "Hey, let's just put it out there," kind of like VHS. VHS was a little bit different. But for whatever reason, they weren't able to find that right fit. But I think they're still working on that because it's still showing technically in production, because it hasn't been officially distributed yet. But I hope it will.
Same here. I hope so too. Indeed. And in 2019, you were the writer of My Dear Max. What was the writing process like for My Dear Max?
So that one was a very unique creature. It was part of the JW Marriott 48-hour kind of their own version of the 48-hour film festival or film project, but the JW Marriott fashion. And it still kind of followed a lot of the same things where I think you had to have a prop and a line and a character name show up, and they were all kind of tied to the Marriott. And that because it was a 48-hour and because we all, it was a team of 5, that was the max. And then they supplied us with the equipment, which was really cool because I don't know tech stuff, but evidently it was really cool stuff. So you'll have to ask the DP, Jaren and or Wendy, if ever. And since it's on IMDb, you can see it. But it was very collaborative. We first wanted to do comedy because we all were kind of comedy people. Something shifted where it went, like, all right, well, how, like we started with a ghost story, and then the ghost story kind of became this thing of how the person became a ghost. And then they went, wow, that's really sad, but I think that's our story. And at that point, I just kind of, frantically started clacking away. And before I knew it, we had a really simple, really sad story that just worked. It wasn't, probably what the JW Marriott wanted to have for publicity and stuff. They probably did want comedy and something lighthearted and fun that says, "Hey, come here," not, "Oh God, that's sad. I don't want to go there." But it was great. Like it was a wonderful, wonderful experience because we were there. I think when all was said and done, I think I left a day early, but I think everyone else was there like 4 or 5 days, and it's a beautiful, beautiful space. It was on Marco Island. Loved it. Yeah, so that was very collaborative. And then, yes, that's the only written thing I have, I think, on IMDb right now.
Most definitely, indeed. And let's see here. You also worked on Wake Up, Clown College, Flexa. I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And Tim and Franklin, we talked about Teardrop Goodbye with mandatory directorial commentary by Remy Von Trout.
Thank you, yes.
That's quite the name for a movie. So what were your stories like for all those flicks?
With Wake Up, that's also a feature. It's actually on Amazon if you want to go and watch it. I was not the one who caused the character to be called Jeffrey. It just happened to have my first name, so that worked out. So that way, if they called me by my name, I would actually react. It wouldn't be like, "Who are you talking to?" I'm not Bruce. But so that was easy, and it was yet another one. Just a matter of professionalism. It was great. Like it was very well done. Even though these are independent films, everyone's taking it seriously, and that's one of the best things. Then Falexa was a short film as kind of I believe Dina McKinnon wanted to do it as, if I remember correctly, as kind of her preemptive to the 48 hour. She wanted to kind of rehearse and practice and just kind of know, all right, I can do this, boom, wrote it out. She said the script originally actually was intended for a woman. And I guess either who she had wasn't available for the time frame, or maybe she just kind of changed her mind a bit. And it was fun. It basically boils down to a Alexa that is all about weight loss, and so it's very aggressive and kind of nightmarish in a way. But it was a really cute, fun project to work on. I'm trying to remember what was the other one that you had said. I mean, Teardrop, I know, but was there one more?
There's Clown College, Wake Up.
Clown College, yes. Clown College was Wendy, who I actually worked on Clown College first, then My Dear Max with Wendy. She directed both, and that's how she found out about me being a writer, to bring me to the 48. But I had acted. It's. I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's on the festival circuit right now, and I want to say the auditions were online originally, and I remember sending in. I think I may have gone through my agent. I'm not positive. Um, and just kind of submitted as a character, and I want to say she asked us to do like just a completely in character goofy thing, because there's a point where some strange stuff happens and it needed actors who were willing to go there. So I guess I did good enough, so she was like, here you go. And then Teardrop Goodbye with mandatory commentary by Remy Von Trapp. I was a cultist. It was fun. I hammed it up to the point that it shouldn't. It was so far. Yeah, and hopefully people will watch it and go, "Ah, yes, that actor is hamming it up," and not going, "God, he's awful." But we'll see. I don't know.
Most definitely, indeed. Let's see here. You worked on two projects in 2020. You were the actor, lighting technician, and production assistant for Enigmatic Cases. What are there some stories on set?
So that one was a 48-hour. Just this past. Oh wow, I guess it's probably been 2 months now. I'm not even sure, but this past, the 48-hour in Jacksonville. That one was an interesting one because it was a team who kind of was born out of another team, and because basically it's kind of a team of people who usually all work together, and if one's not available, they're like, all right, we don't want to do this under the title Somebody Call an Ambulance Productions, so they do Mental Gen productions. Well, Mental Gen went ahead and joined. Somebody Call an Ambulance wasn't going to, but then they said, you know what, we've had this crazy idea before, since we've worked together closely, and this is the perfect opportunity for it. What we can do is bring in one additional person, which would be the director from Somebody Call an Ambulance, Paul Melian. He and they did two projects at the same time with the same script, sort of. And so it really worked out well, and of course it's great because the audience didn't know it was coming. So initially you get this really cutesy kind of romantic comedy with a little bit of a creepy edge, where you're like, all right, that's a little stalkery. And then Enigmatic Cases, which is kind of a on its own, it is a mystery. It's a little bit creepy, and it's basically like Unsolved Mysteries. And I played kind of the Robert Stack character. But when you put them together, all of a sudden, Enigmatic Cases is hilarious because it is so dark in comparison to the romantic comedy one.
Most definitely. And you also acted in My Twin Brother's Son. What are some stories on that film?
That one was Joe Mora, who you interviewed him, right?
Yep.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah. He that man is ambition, like personified. He decided, I'm going to make what the Academy defines as a feature film all in one day and get it out, like film, write, everything all in one day. Because people are like, oh, 48 hours to do 48 hours to do a short. He's like, well, 24 hours to do a feature. Meh. And so he had kind of the gist of the story, the webs of what he wanted to see, and then he kind of had me and the other actor, Jeff Doyle, kind of go through the situation. He was like, he wanted it to be a very slow burn and kind of a feel. I mean, it is a lot of very just kind of slow moments of us just acknowledging each other, as the characters, and telling stories about someone who passed, and like it's a sad situation, and it was kind of significant, because Joe had gone through having COVID, and so it was, and one of the characters had passed from that, so that was kind of important to him, one might say. But yeah, that was it was mostly improvised, but it was very, like, again, that the level of ambition, like, that's whew.
Indeed. What are you working on? Currently working on a pilot episode. What are some details you can share with the audience about your pilot episode?
Yeah, it's a modern, set in modern times, basically a magician's sort of thing, and as an actual magic people, not misdirection. It more or less runs on the concept of order versus chaos, because I kind of got tired of the idea of good versus evil. I'm like, we've done that, and order is not always good. Chaos is not always evil. Sometimes beauty comes out of chaos. Creation is chaos. Now, not the real meaning of chaos, because chaos is just nihilism and nothing, but what we now view as chaos is all of these really beautiful and good things. And then order can also be stagnancy and boredom and cold. And so I kind of wanted to make something from that. And I started kind of developing really those two characters, the idea of order and chaos, as personified beings. And that wasn't the way to go. So I kind of wrote a crappy short film that was just bad. And I had to just get it out of my system. Like, all right, I can tell what I equate it to is, I started craving candy before I had the meal. And I was like, all right, I just got to finish the candy. Like, it's going to have to happen. And then we'll move on to the meal and start over again, tomorrow. So I wrote some crappy script, got it done. It's out of the way, burned, buried. I don't even know. But now I have a pilot that added in the human element, which is the most important element of almost all of these stories. Unless you're just doing a visual art piece, the human element is, and even then still kind of has that evoking emotion part. Yeah. It's at its first draft. It's rough. There are going to be changes and shifts and things, and who knows where it'll go. It's going to need special effects. It's going to need money. That's what it's going to boil down to. I wanted to have it written because it's been in my head, and I love the idea of being able to pass it around to people who might have some influence, to be like, I like this idea. Let's do it. Let's go reach out to Netflix or to HBO or to whomever. And sure, I would be willing to do that. So now I'm working on the Bible for it, to kind of get at least that first season out there, because that's what everyone says you kind of got to do. Even if you never follow what the Bible is, and things change, at least you kind of have an idea where it could go or should go. But if a director comes in and who ends up being a showrunner and I'm not, hey, you got it. This is no longer my baby.
Indeed, most definitely. And Jeff, we're at the 1 hour mark. Is there any final words you'd like to share with the audience out there?
I love you all. No, support local theaters, truly, like 100,000 million %. And take care of yourself, take care of others, unless you don't actually live near them or with them, and then stay 6 feet away. Yeah.
Indeed. Excellent final words for sure. And as Jeff said, definitely support your local favorite theaters like the Sunray and the Corazon. And all their links are on the bottom. And connect with Jeff on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, IMDb, however they do it there. And thank you so much, Jeff, for being my guest tonight on the season finale of Saturday Night Cenobites. It means the world to me. So,
absolutely.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you again whenever that day comes. So.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And until next season, we'll see you all whenever that is. I'll see you all soon.